problems with both. That's.
And then somebody throws 8-pin into the mix. You guys seen this thing?
No.
It was something that somebody decided to put up. They decided to reimagine the idea of a touchscreen keyboard, and so that they could move it down into gestures that you make on this little dot at the center of the touchscreen.
So basically, they're doing a gestured version of the old accordion board.
I don't know. I don't know what an accordion board is.
Before computers were powerful enough to actually have a keyboard in which you could program in the 26 letters of the alphabet and the 10 numbers, you had this little thing that was an accordion board. You had a few keys, and basically you counted in hex out the variable to put the key in.
No.
Yes.
No, that's not what...
There were people who got really proficient about it. Like, they could type 100 words a minute with the damn little accordion board. I'm like, you're touched in the head? And there's still people to this day that are like, I want my accordion board back. It's like, I don't like a keyboard. I'm like, you're touched.
But that's not what 8-pen is. It's more like that old palm input where you would make certain gestures that represent each letter. I mean, this one, the gestures don't represent the letters. They're just a stream of gestures that you put over this dot, this small dot at the bottom of your screen. And
effectively what you're saying here is that some tech enthusiast has created a whole nother language that will bewhittle and befaddle grandma and make her afraid of technology.
Yes, pretty much.
Good. It's not like we don't have enough of those already. I'm LOLing.
So like I was trying this thing out. It's complicated to learn, and I was starting to get the hang of it.
No, it strikes me as one of those things, you know, just like texting acronyms and all these other things. Once you get the hang of this insanity, you wonder how you ever did without it. But getting the hang of the insanity, it's like, no, I do see Mac users like this. That's like, they're like, I can never use anything but a Mac because I've become addicted to these gestures, and I like them, and I do them, and I'm like, oh, well, it makes sense for you to buy a Mac. Those gestures don't make sense to me, but it's like, believe me, I get it. If that is why you're buying that and it makes sense to you, you're buying it for a valid reason. It's exactly why I don't buy it, because I don't want to be locked into that, and those gestures drive me nuts. Especially the way you do them through the Magic Mouse. I haven't said this yet, but honestly, the way I look at that Magic Pad thing they've created is, oh, so yet again, you're creating another device to deal with the fact that you don't want to get the mouse right. You know, the whole reason for the Magic Mouse is Steve Jobs does not want, and the glass pad on the MacBooks is Steve Jobs does not want there to be more than one big shiny button. But we'll figure out a really complicated and expensive way to make the one big shiny button do two buttons. Because you really need two buttons to use a computer. But in the most complicated... Yeah. Well, you know what's so stupid about this? The original mouse, the frickin' Xerox mouse, had 3 buttons. It's like... Yeah. It's like... All this stuff goes back to the fact that Apple initially oversimplified it and got rid of too many buttons, and they don't want to admit that mistake. It's like, it'll be 20 years from now, and Apple will initiate this new $2,000 add-on that lets you do what a mouse can do by default if it has more than one button. But this is better because it proves Steve Jobs didn't make a mistake.
Right.
I laugh when Apple comes out with these things. I'm like, Oh, so now you have a really expensive add-on that lets you do what any PC person can do with a multi-button mouse. Good, Apple. It's like...
How do we get from 8-pin to this again?
We were talking about the gesture languages.
Right.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of a different kind for the 8-pin because it's designed around...
No, I think what you're talking about, yeah, it's more like that palm language. It's like, and I remember that. Like, you'd open your palm, and there was this little place on the bottom of it, and initially there was this card in here that goes, this is the gesture for this letter. And you were like, well, that's not how I write a T. But okay. It's like...
It's not even that straightforward though, because the one for the Palm Pilot was designed to look kind of like the letters, so it would be like writing on a piece of paper or whatever. This one, you just make these little figure 8 kinds of things in order to spell out a whole word or something.
Oh, are you talking about you're talking about this keyboard that some company made for Android or
Yeah.
Yeah, the one advantage that I can see about this thing is that
you know what that reminded me of?
It's the ability to touch type on a touch screen keyboard.
Right.
But other than that, it takes longer to make these things, and when I was using it, I found that my wrist was getting tired faster.
No, I've seen what you're talking about. It's like, and honestly, what languages like this always remind me of is that one Onion video with the wheel. It's like, you'll wonder why you ever wanted a keyboard when you could just have a giant thing. Anyways, what did it remind you of, James?
Are you talking about, I'm not sure if we're talking about the same thing. There's this keyboard that somebody came out with where you move your finger in a circle to select keys a certain number of times.
Yeah, I think you and I are thinking about the right one.
Yeah.
It's a software thing, right? It's not hardware.
No, yeah, it's an on-screen thing,
yeah. You buy it from the Android market or eventually the App Store, and it allows you to type by just making little circles with your thumb or whatever.
You got really quiet. Say that again.
Can you hear me?
You're like, your volume's been turned down for some...
Okay, well, can you
hear?
It's
better now. It's like...
Oh, I don't know, but anyway, it reminded me of when, to call people on phones, you have to spin it for each number.
Modern technology reminds you of the rotary dial phone. Kudos, modern technology!
Spinning it all the way for each number a few times. It's... I don't see it as fast as,
It's not. It is.
Well, no. See.
It is kind of slow, but it does have the advantage.
This is the same thing with Windows wanting to get rid of the menu bar and make me go through these endless picture menus and all these changes like this. I'm like, what you are replacing was more elegant and efficient than what you're replacing it with. It's like, in these changes, I'm not saying UI changes are a bad thing, but if you're going to make dramatic UI changes or come up with whole new keyboards and whole new gestures and things of doing things, they should be so drop-dead simple that they actually make life easier. Because if they do anything but that, they are a complete and utter fail, and it's just, what do you mean I can't do it the way I want to anymore? Especially for end users that don't really like technology to begin with, because then it's, what do you mean I have to go through this whole chore of learning everything again? I've seen those people. These are the people who refuse to buy anything new. They've just given up. They're going to live in their little hermit shack, and they're like, no, the new thing sucks. I'm not buying anything new. It's new, it sucks, because it's different, and I'm afraid of different. And different's bad, and different sucks.
Like the 60% using Windows XP.
That's a certain factor of it, yeah. It's like, and it wouldn't have been so bad if they hadn't just completely abandoned the classic UI. But really, there's no way to get the classic UI in Windows 7. You can't get there. There's no way to get back to the standard way of doing things. You can get close-ish, but close-ish still isn't as functional for somebody who wants it that way. It's like, and I'm not saying Windows 7 is a bad OS. I'm just saying it's a culture shock in some cases. I mean, you actually, XP is where Windows 7 came from for terms of the UI. If you know that XP view and everything, it's like that's very much the roots of how Windows 7's put together. It's just yeah, it's like it's that mode nobody used because the first thing everybody did the first time they called tech support was switch to classic view so they could find things. And really, though, the direction it went with Vista and then a little bit further in Windows is a natural progression of the direction they were doing there, but nobody used it. It's like the average user didn't use it. Nobody used it. So it's complete culture shock now at this point. There's been no intermediary step, and there's no way to go back because the classic mode is now the XP mode nobody used. It's like, so they're like, that's not classic. Classic's supposed to look like my XP machine. It's like,
right.
It's just a change. And honestly, I'm all for complete UI changes and the removal of the traditional GUI. I'd very much love to go the whole Minority Report thing where I go, you know, the whole Sixth Sense computing thing. I love that. That's great. You get Sixth Sense computing with a neural chip. You know, that's a dream interface right there because it'll be intuitive. It'll do what I want. It'll let me just like, oh, picture. What time is it? You know, phone. Like that UI makes perfect sense, and it's entirely intuitive. But if it's anything less than entirely intuitive like that, it will drive the end user nuts. You shouldn't have to read a manual to use your computer. You should just go, computer, do stuff.